I'm gonna. I was in the bath, trying to take a bath, and he wanted to be on his schedule. So he kept meowing in inappropriate ways, in an inappropriate place. What's this about? Why do you do this? I raised you better than this. What are you doing? Why are you bothering me in a bath? Where are you going in politics or something? Why are you so egocentric? So this is a message for the Liberal Party of Canada, and it's about how to deal with Trump, you know, as if you were Homo sapiens. So there is a vlog of mine that explains the spectrum of worldviews, okay? And most people today are going towards the egocentric. Okay, and of course Trump is, you know, near the end of that, and because of his power, you can raise the clock a little bit further for doomsday, right? The thing is most people in the world are not very far. They're just variations of it. So that means, let's say I went into politics, okay, the elusive Homo sapien. People would be in shock in ways they wouldn't understand, and they would rebel. I wouldn't do anything wrong. I'd do everything right as a public servant. And I'd explain it, and I'd live a transparent life as a politician. The levels of accountability I would live by would be such a shock. Some people might think I'm generated by AI if they don't meet me in person or something. So they wouldn't identify with me, and it wouldn't work. The thing is, though, is when I see most of you, you're just such variations of the end of the evolutionary extinction part of the worldview spectrum, that if you can only get, let's say, 10% away from that end, okay? Let's say you could reach levels that were 10% of my accountability and transparency levels, walking the talk of sentience and sapience and what you claim to understand and represent and what the values are. I could read you a little bit of a paper here, the last paper we had here in Prince Rupert, and the MLA is quoted as saying she's supporting MLA Ma, and of course the behaviors of explosives down there is unacceptable. Violence is unacceptable. It's not what Homo sapiens do. And but most of you, though, the Homo communia, will resort to that if you have a passion for something and things don't change, right? Me, I'm just resorting to kind of being the unpopular messenger. Now, let's say you went 10% of me, which would put you so far from Trump, which you think you already are, but you're not. It would intimidate him so much. He wouldn't want to deal with you guys. He'd be really nice and supportive, but he'd be intimidated by you guys because he wouldn't know how to interact with somebody at these levels. Somebody, for example, that doesn't allow things behind closed doors. And by the way, Prime Minister Carney does allow things behind closed doors. And negotiations, by the way, Carney does see them as win-lose. Doesn't see them as win-win scenarios. A life skills coach does, and a life skills coach promotes transparency in these win-win scenarios. Now, if you guys admit that you're a tiny bit away from Trump, not that far, and the reasons that you're getting away from it is that the norm is not finding your behaviors sacrilege, you know, if that's the right word, or they're not outraged by your behaviors, it's because the norm, again, resembles you. You also resemble Trump. The norm resembles Trump, right? People vote for trying to get ahead and getting as much for themselves as possible in the magical monetary paradigm, right? Which is a magical spectrum of worldviews. It's not related to the natural world or anything like that. Now, if you guys were as good as you think you are, the norm, which is sick, which creates mascots in their nations like Trump. Trump is a generic product of his time, right? He represents a big chunk of the population. Then the population get a chance, like I wrote in that Time Capsule 2.6, that maybe none of you have read still, even though you've received it. They get a chance to see themselves in the mirror. Now, will they be able to self-correct? According to my theory, they might try a little bit, but they'll fail because the forces of the norm wins. But let's say you guys want to start acting like an Homo sapien, and it would be so far from the norm that there are risks. There would be benefits, right? Even though you might fail, there'd be benefits of slowing down our devolution as a species and giving a chance for your kids and grandkids to work on mitigation ventures because they'll have more time, right? Things won't decline as quickly. Plus, the more you're transparent about describing these devolutions of our own species and our own attempts at global proto-societies, and the more you support programs that includes things such as living more by the limits of the natural world, learning life skills, for example, Saskatchewan New Start models, so they can form collaborations and cooperations, and they can also, promote within each other with a transparent life without selling an image, which increases intellectual laziness and also mental illnesses, is they can get back to maybe the concept of collective learning, reboot collective learning, which is one of the things that would save them, right? In the way that our ancestors who were hunter-gatherers had to learn so many things. Now, there was harshness in those days, harshness that you will make worse with your current worldviews than what the ancestors had to do. Some of you will have some comforts to survive those harshnesses, but most won't. And when I say most won't, this is where you kind of see that you're lacking the sentience and the sapience, right? Where your worldviews are is you maybe care enough about some members of your family, maybe not all, but mostly your spectrum position on a worldview is very egocentric. So that means you can't reference other people's kids, you can't reference other parts of the world's offspring, and you can't definitely reference time span of future generations. But what if you gave it a try for a year or two? What if, in doing this, that would create hope? Because right now what you're doing is trying to still fix what is wrong with capitalism with more capitalism. I don't appreciate the spin you're putting on it as if fossil fuel industries somehow are going to become so green it's going to fix things. It's not, right? You can't admit this and state it publicly and expect the rare intelligent people to not consider you from suffering from cognitive dissonance, picking and choosing different ideologies and sometimes worldviews that can't coexist at the same time within the same reality, and therefore making you guys, as much as you have good intentions, unable to adapt and problem solve. What do you think about all this? If I can get my cat to write a comment, on every video, I'll have my first regular commenter. What do you think?